Hey everyone, Luke here. Before we start the review this week, I just want to say massive thanks to Party Jams this week as well, because we decided that okay, since we talk about the chapters normally each week on the Discord server, not just Dr. Stone but the other chapters that we normally read in Shonen Jump, we figured, hey, why not make a live stream out of that? So that's what we did last night. It's on my YouTube channel, and that's something that we both fully enjoyed. So we're gonna continue doing that, and that'll be great for weeks when there's no like Dr. Stone chapter. And we could just talk about other series, kind of like get a video out there. So yeah, that's something we really enjoyed. Big massive thanks to him, and let's just get on with this review, because despite us talking about it in the live stream, this obviously deserves to be talked about in a full review. Because in the live stream you get my initial reactions to it, but now we're getting the full review. Okay, so this will be Dr. Stone chapter 219, titled Three Heroes. So what is that, like the Three Heroes Church from Rise of the Shield Hero? Is Naofumi from Rise of the Shield Hero gonna come into the Dr. Stone universe, or is it gonna be like three heroes, like what, My Hero Academia, Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo gonna come into the Dr. Stone universe? Like, what is that? Now, obviously I'm joking there. Like, the Three Heroes is a reference to the fact that, yeah, there is only going to be three people going to confront the Y-Man, which, yeah, I did say this in the live stream, and yeah, I'm a bit disappointed by this, but hey ho, what can you do? I'm sure, like, Party Jams did mention that, yeah, this is probably to reflect the Apollo mission. Like, there was only three people that went up there, and also there was only three people on the Soyuz, so that's probably meant to reflect it. And once you see the end of the chapter, you'll understand why that is, because yeah, it is pretty much a reflection of the Soyuz crew, basically. But anyway, the chapter opens up with them saying, obviously, that the rocket will seat three people, and the astronauts who will travel to the moon are ... before they are actually discussing like who's gonna go on it, with Suika saying like who's going, and Taiji saying, heck yeah, we're finally going to be up against Y-Man, the big bad final boss. Now, this is now, even though it does make sense, like, okay, three people kind of be a reflection of the Soyuz crew, that's a little bit confusing, because if you notice everything else about the series, like Tsukasa, Ibara, Xenu, and Stanley, basically everyone has been involved in those battles against those people in some way, like being there at the location to actually confront them. So this is kind of like going against like the mold of like how to do a final boss battle in Dr. Stone. So yeah, now people mention like, oh, what about Hyoga, the battle with Tsukasa, Hyoga, and Senku, and yeah, but really, is Hyoga like one of the big? You have to think like Hyoga is not really one of the big bads. Like when you look at like Ibara, Tsukasa, or Xenu, like that's up to debate. Like Hyoga, I would say it's more like battling Mosu, basically. Yo goes on to say, "Amen. If you insist, I'll think about heeding the Call of Duty." Now, when that line came up, I was like, oh my god, there's going to be some Call of Duty meme. And of course, somebody had to actually put the Call of Duty game case with with Yo's face on it. Someone had to do that. But yeah, Kawaku's like, nobody asked you, like, and the fact that Kohaku said that, yeah, you're gonna have to kind of regret saying that when we get into what happens at the end of the chapter. Kohaku, Chelsea says, makes sense for the space experts to choose that. That means Xenu. So yeah, it does make sense. So now we cut over to Xenu with everyone and all the monitors. So like he's got the whole world connected now with like a big like billboard with like a big like basically like it's basically like he's in science class in school, and he's got like the chalkboard with all billboard with all like the notes and everything, and he's like, okay class, settle down. So like, Senku, are you on the same manga page here? Like, so we are the manga. Like, that's besides the point. Are you on the same page here? Okay, yeah, great. We're all good to go. So he goes on to say, here in our stone world, this mission into space will be an entirely different beast than the missions of the past. And yes, that is true. This will be an entirely different beast, because you have no idea what is up there. I mean, you know the Y-Man's up there, but you have no idea what or who the Y-Man is. And this is where we get something really confusing here, that me and Pyjam's like debate talks about. Like, yeah, this is not the smartest plan that the Kingdom of Science have actually gone on here. Like, I love the series, but gotta call it out when you gotta call it out. This plan is stupid. Like, just flat out stupid. When he says, first, for the majority of the flight, including the takeoff, our astronauts will be petrified. Yeah, just wrap your heads around that. They're gonna petrify the astronauts, including taking flight. Okay, so how are they gonna get unpetrified once they're up there? Like, I know people are bringing up like, oh, that's easy. They'll just toss the flight fluid up. Yeah, but we know Senku has the worst luck in the world. And spoiler alert: Senku is one of the astronauts that's going up there. Not really a spoiler because he's the main character, so it was kind of obvious that he was going. But yeah, Senku has the worst luck in the world. So this plan might not work this time, like it did the last time when he threw it up and it came down on Treasure Island. So yeah. And also as well, don't you have to have the astronauts breathe like unpetrified, like basically flesh and bone, to actually get all the controls and everything. Like I mean, I know they could technically do this before they petrify themselves, but still, even when they're up in space, like they're gonna be like, okay, Senku 17, Senku 11, are you receiving? Senku 11, 17. Oh yeah, crap, we've forgotten that we petrified them. Now what do we do? Like, you see why this plan is kind of one of the dumbest plans that they've ever come up with, and nobody is questioning this, which makes me all the more curious. Like, okay, this is going to go horribly wrong. The fact that nobody is questioning this right now. Like, you have Gen going, of course they only need to be revived for the critical part of the mission. No, Gen, they need to be alive for the out of suspended animation for the whole mission. Now, probably just did bring up right, like kind of like being something like being cryo sleep. But again, seriously, like, how are they going to get unpetrified from that if there's nobody there? Now, it gets me feeling like there are others that are going to go in space, like, because they say that the three are going to be combating Y-Man and going to the moon, but they don't say anything about others going into space. So, and they'll need people into space to actually, because the spaceship is going to actually have to be put together in space, so there's gonna have to be more than just the three that go into space. Like, there'll be people that go into space to kind of like help them get the spaceship put together, and then maybe unpetrify them. Like, okay, we'll be in the escape pods waiting for you guys while you go and confront the Y-Man. That might actually happen. But seriously, yeah, Senku says, yes, designing our life support system was way easier with that. Was way easier with that assumption in place. So it kind of implying that Senku's not even going to bother making life support system. Like, no, Senku, you need that. And Ukyo, you're supposed to be one of these three are supposed to be the five wise generals, and yet they're not questioning this plan by Ukyo saying a distinct advantage. No, this is a distinct disadvantage in the stone world, Ukyo. Kind of use your noggin here. Seriously. Now, going back to what I just said about the whole petrifying, being petrified in space and how they're going to get unpetrified. Me and Sean OG on Twitter actually had a conversation about this. If I can actually bring it up, come on, Twitter, you can do it. Let's see here. Let's go into my notifications. Let's go down. Let's go down. Let's go down. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Um, so yeah. Um, yeah, here it is. We found it. Yeah, so he doubts that more people will go up in the separate capsules because it might be there'll be some mechanism emulating how they usually throw it up in the air, so it falls back down. But I mentioned that Senku it has the worst luck in the world, which he does, and he agrees that Senku does have is an unlucky boy, and it seems. But he seems it's pretty unlikely that they would spend time to build a hover rocket. Now, what I meant by that is like no, because they've got the 5 capsules that they're working on, so maybe that will be piloted by other people by other people. And I compared it to like the Megazord, like how it might be the 5 capsules might be reminiscent of the swords from Power Rangers, which have pilots for them before they all come together. So that might be a way to like just get like most of the cats like kind of off Earth into space, and kind of be like, okay, we're gonna be here if you need us. You guys go and confront the Y-Man. So it kind of gets everyone involved in the fight in the final battle. But he reckons that there might be a force on Earth that will kind of get everyone else involved in this final battle as well, which led me to thinking like maybe Y-Man isn't just on the moon, it can be on Earth as well. Like there's like a Y-Man of Earth and a Y-Man of the moon that's kind of like connected together if the Y-Man is an AI, which would make the most logical sense in this situation, like how the Y-Man has actually survived all this time. Like it's been connected. It's kind of like the Y-Man on the moon is the mother brain, and the Y-Man on Earth is the mother brain. The Y-Man on the moon is the mother brain, and the Y-Man on Earth is kind of like the subsection of it, basically. Kind of going like that, like the boss is on Earth and on the moon. So anyway, continuing on, Sinu explains that the unprecedented difficulty comes in not knowing the exact nature of the moon. Who exactly is Y-Man? Can our science triumph over this foe? All we can rely on is our experience dealing with Y-Man's Petrobeam. That key factor may decide humanity's fate. As such, we will not seek out astronauts for the 21st century. Instead, we will select and train 3 astronauts from among us. Okay, this kind of feels like a bit of a like, we're not gonna revive other astronauts, send them up there because we just want our characters to be part of it. Like it seems kind of like just like a create a sort of like a bullshitty roundabout way to be like, okay, yeah, we're not gonna get real astronaut experts. Instead, we're gonna train our own experts, because because even then, you sending your, that's not going to make a difference, because you've basically contradicted yourself here. Like, okay, we don't know the exact nature of what the Y-Man is, so we don't know exactly what we're dealing with on the moon. So we're gonna not revive other astronauts. Instead, we're gonna train all 3 astronauts. Like, yeah, you still don't know what the Y-Man is, so you're still screwed either way if you get up there. But yeah, they say that they'll need the following 3: a pilot, a scientist, a warrior. And of course, Ryusui being Ryusui is like, yeah, I'm the pilot, and Chrome is just like, yeah, sure, whatever, you can have it, Ryusui. It's funny, because Ryusui, ever since he's been revived, it's just been like, his first line should be, might as well have been like, I'm the greediest person alive, so greedy that I'm going to take a slot from Kinru, Ginru, Ruri. I'm going to take Ruri's spot from her and become a main character. That's pretty much what his first line might have been. But yeah, Sinu says picking our scientist is more of an issue. I must remain on the ground at mission control, as no one else can fulfill that role. And he says this sort of like begrudgingly. It's like, if I must remain on ground, since nobody else can do that role. I think in his mind he's saying like, I wanted to rule the world, and now I'm having to side with Senku here. Fine, whatever. Like he's begrudgingly being like, oh, fine, I'm a good guy now. Chrome and Suika kind of being understanding here and kind of being like, okay, this is Senku's dream. Like he has to be the scientist that goes up there. But guys, you have just as more of a shot at Senku, if not even better, because you guys are still physically stronger than Senku, so you probably would be able to handle the more intense space travel than Senku. Like even Tsukasa said, like, Senku, you're probably not fit for this. You're probably not fit for space travel, so I'd probably send Chrome. Like sending Chrome or Suika would be much more appropriate. Which, and no, again, nobody's questioning that, which makes me believe that they are going to go to space. Like they might not go to the moon, but they'll still go up in space in case something happens to Senku and Ryusui and whoever the warrior is. So yeah, that's kind of weird that they didn't even question that. But Sinu says they may be petrified during the flight, but even so, astronauts must undergo considerable No, Sinu, like if you're petrifying them, petrifying them, stamina training wouldn't even matter in that case because they'd be petrified, they'd be frozen. Like seriously, could you say why they still need to go under the training even though they're going to be petrified? Like if they're petrified and if the petrified and don't go under the stamina training, their bodies will break apart. And like seriously, Sinu, like use your noggin, guys. Like use your noggins here. Like the fact that they're just skimming over very important questions that kind of raises the question that something is going to go wrong here. And of course, as soon as they mention stamina and Senku in the same sentence, they're like, yeah, this is not going to bode well. And we cut to Senku literally underwater. So yeah, I guess we now have two shonen main characters whose weaknesses is water. We have Luffy and Senku. Yeah, because you see it right here. Senku, he is struggling right there in the water. Like, come on, Senku, we know you're a greenhorn according to Ibara, but seriously, even you're not this weak. Like, come on, you can at least handle some training, like swimming in clothes, basically. Surely you can handle that, Senku. But no, which makes me think like Chrome and Suika would have been more appropriate here. But we cut over to Nikki. Okay, so I guess Nikki's back now. So now we were just gonna if they hadn't brought this up, we'd probably just been like, oh, okay, so she just came back off screen. But no, Nikki says a flea could outlast you, Senku. Crying uncle during the closed swimming test prep. That is pathetic. How are you ever gonna take a single step in that heavy spacesuit? Yeah. She's bringing up a good point here because the spacesuit is probably going to be too heavy. Like Senku would probably be like, oh, how heavy is this thing? And we cut over to Suika say, oh, it's Nikki and them probably referring to some of the Americans from the American colony that came back to Japan. And Taiju brings up when did they make it back to Japan? Like basically, yeah, he's basically saying like, oh, when did they come back? Like he's doing my Taiju rant from a few weeks ago, even though that was unwarranted, basically. But yeah, he's basically doing the Taiju rant that I did in the review. But Gen says, I suppose we didn't notice because we've seen them every day on a video call, so it's probably like. Nikki, can you? Are you all right? Is everything? Oh, you're right there, Nikki. Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're back in Japan now? Yeah. I guess they came back on the Perseus USA. So Ryusui says, now that the internet's back up and running, we don't need to station key people. Yes, you still need to station key people around the world because you still need to have people monitoring those monitors and keeping tabs on everything. Like this was a rant that Party Gems went over in the live stream. The fact that the world builder has been kind of skipped over, and yeah, it does kind of suck considering that was one of the main goals of Dr. Stone at the beginning. Rebuilding civilization. It's kind of just been on autopilot ever since the final battle with Stanley. So yeah, I am disappointed by that. I mean, Dot Stone still a 10 out of 10 series for me, but we have to accounts for like the series is not perfect, and this is one of the genocides not being perfect, like the world building being skipped over in just favor of like, okay, we're gonna get to this, we're gonna get to go into space. Like, this could have easily been a 400, 500 chapter series. The fact that they've just skipped over a lot of things, and a lot of world building, and a lot of obstacles that they could have overcome. Yeah, that's kind of a bit disappointing, and really wish that Inagaki would have just been like, okay, I'm not going to skip over the world building. I'm gonna do this the proper way. I'm gonna do this step at a time, step at a time, step at a time. Really wish he had done that, but hey ho, what can you do? It's something that we're just gonna have to live with. Like, I don't, I don't believe in like just being like, oh, this is bullshit, this makes Doctor Stone the worst. Like, no, it doesn't. It just means that it just means it has flaws in an otherwise awesome and amazing story. And again, maybe that's something that we should reflect on ourselves. Like Doctor Stone the manga kind of being a representation of humanity. Like, humanity's not perfect, but when it dishes out, it gives us a good example of what humanity is capable of. That's kind of like the motive MO that I'm gonna go with this. Like, Doctor Stone the manga isn't perfect, but it's a clear representation of humanity. Like, humanity's not perfect, but when we come together to do awesome stuff, that's what makes us so great. That's what makes us human. Ryusui goes on to say the world's online and everyone's sharing science tips. So we've hit the phase where the people of each region are building back civilization on their own. Yeah, but you're still gonna have to have people from the Kingdom of Science to keep an eye on them. Like, like, this is just gonna bring back corruption, Ryusui. This is gonna bring back corruption in a way that you're not accustomed to. You are greedy, but you're not like evil greedy, basically. Where there's going to be like probably evil greedy people who are going to take advantage of this situation. And again, this might lead to a civil war on Earth, which might actually be the conflict that might actually get everyone involved. Whilst Ryusui, Senku, and the Warrior, whoever it is, will. I'm basically keeping that a secret until the end of the chapter. Whilst they're on the moon, like, that will all be going on Earth, and kind of get them involved in this final battle. Like, it might be a final battle with the Y-Man, but also a final battle to like keep the world as neutral and understanding as possible. That may be sort of the reason why they're just being like, oh, happy-go-lucky, this is amazing. Like, no, there are going to be people that are going to take advantage of the situation, especially since you lot are all back in Japan now. Anyway, we see Yuzuriya and Ginru return to Japan, and Yuzuriya and Taiju are like, come on, guys, you might as well just get married. You might as well just get married now. We might as well just call them a married couple, even though it's not official yet. It's like they know that they're in love with each other, but maybe it's because Yuzuriya's headband. Yuzuriya's headband is the key to everything. Like, yeah. Her headband, I'm onto you, Yuzuriya. Yeah, but anyway, as Ginru returns to Japan with Matsukaze, I can honestly imagine what that conversation between them three, like Matsukaze, Ginru, and Tsukasa, would have been like in South America. It's like, oh, in South America, it's like, okay, now that we've got this, we can immediately go back to Japan now. So it's like, Ginru's like, yay, great, I could be back in my home country, and Matsuko's just like, yes, Lord. I can just imagine like the conversation they had before like coming back to Japan. But it's crazy how we don't get like Matsukaze and Tsukasa just coming down right behind Ginru. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's all for the sake of this gag, as Ginru is going after Kohaku and Ruri in like a you know what way, which results in him just getting clobbered on the head by Kohaku. And yeah, Chrome should have been there as well, because Ginru, you know, Ruri is Chrome's girl. Like, you do not do that to Chrome's girl. Gen mentions that there must be a reason why Sinu called everyone back from all around the world, and he says, yeah, this is quite the elegant deductive reasoning as always, game. But yes, now they must select their mission's warrior, as we see Now, this might not be the actual training of... it might just be like a trial selection before we actually get into the actual space training, because Senku is still going to have to get his muscles built up a little bit. Senku and Ryusui, because let's be honest, they're both not the most physically inclined out of the Kingdom of Science compared to some of the warriors in it. So they're going to probably have to put Senku through the ringer to do the space training once we get to it. As Senku's in the war, we see all the warriors of the Kingdom of Science like just rushing past him, including Tsukasa and Hyoga. Now, I was going to make a rant of like why Tsukasa's scars are back on him, but Party-chan's pointed out like, well, his scars are not here, but later on in the chapter, yes, he paints them back on. So Party-chan's brought up like, okay, he's in the water, so he obviously washed off when he was in the water, which would make the most sense. And we see some of, I assume it's people that are not that are like pre-petrified people looking over and saying those Ichigami Village guys can move. They are in the they are water tribe. They are water tribe after all. As we see Ginryu, Kinryu, and Magma going through the intense training to like be the warrior selected. I could just imagine Magma in just like, I want to be the warrior. I want to go out and attack Ryman. I want to attack Ryman. Let me be the warrior. Let me be the warrior. Like that's probably what he's thinking. Before we see Suika going, wearing clothes is no big deal when there's such strong swimmers already. Which again, Suika and Chrome are not actually making an effort to be like, can we please be the ones that go into space? Like they're not even making that much of an effort to actually be the ones to be selected, which makes me believe that they are gonna go to space and something bad is going to happen to Senku, Ryusui, and the warrior. Anyway, we get quite a touching flashback here as Senku is just reminiscing about Byakuya by saying, by going to flashback of him saying as a kid when Byakuya was in the swimsuit and being thrown into the water by Senku during his astronaut selection trials. He says, in these astronaut selection trials, the clothes swimming test is your Achilles heel, right? And you get this solemn look on Senku. It's like, well, I guess this is a case of popcorn in the kettle black, basically. Basically, and being like, yeah, I can see why it was your Achilles heel, because it's my Achilles heel. It's my Achilles heel, Dad. And it's nice that Senku is actually reminiscent of his dad, and makes it even more sad that his dad is not there to witness his son do the most incredible thing of his life, basically. But yeah, he remembers how his dad was able to swim during the training, and he's able to copy it just as much as well, and which makes everyone surprised by this. But yeah, Senku giving it his all before we cut over to the concentration trial, and I love the fact that we have Senku who was worried about the stamina trial, and now we have Kohaku who's worried about the concentration trial because let's be honest, Kohaku and concentration. Yeah, not really the two words that go together, as you'll soon see, because they say, I've heard about these kind of trials. They give them blank white jigsaw puzzles to solve, or other tasks that demand patience and diligence. And we see Gen getting freaked out by this, as he always does when it comes to the really complicated science stuff. And then we see Kohaku basically be like, okay, do that maze, Kohaku. Yeah, you can see her face on there, yeah. She's not the sharpest tool in the show when it comes to the science stuff. Let's be honest here. And we see her just like, it just goes completely over her head. Sort of like what happened with Senku, except that was more physical. This is like more mental, like just like puff out of her brain. But Senku, this is where Senku has the advantage, because he's able to just do it like really, really quickly. And everyone's just like, Senku's got no problem with that brain stuff. Who designed these mazes anyway? As we see, Sai off to the side just making maze puzzles on his computer, and just being like really like doing a Ryusui face basically. So yeah, they are brothers through and through. Him and Sai and Ryusui. We then cut over to Kinryu, Ginryu, and Magma going through the equilibrium test, which it's basically that test for people who don't know, where you spin around really fast, like what you see in Astronaut where they're spinning around really fast to kind of get them thinking, to kind of get them see like, okay, can they handle the zero gravity that's going to be happening in space? And of course they can't. They may have been strong in the water, but now they're just completely worn out when it comes to the equilibrium. And they say, but we say, but Tsukasa is able to easily get over this by with his jumping abilities, and Hyoga says that's to be expected. It's always done well in this area, so Tsukasa's always been the one to do well in the equilibrium area, and this is where we get Magma being incredibly just like, damn it, that guy's been the strongest since day one, because Magma's always seen himself as the strongest, and even though he's jealous, like it's kind of like him being like, damn it, there's someone stronger than me out there. Fine, whatever. Again, kind of like begrudgingly accepting that he's no longer the strongest he's no longer the strongest in Ichigami Village. So kind of begrudgingly accepting that. Ryusuke questions if this decides that, okay, so Tsukasa's the warrior, right? I mean, he was revived just to be the warrior to go to the moon, but Sinu cuts him off here and being like, not necessarily all candidates have proven themselves to be elegant have proven to be elegantly physical specimens, but but they're not just comparing raw stats and records. The battle against Ramen is going to take more than that. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of like the reasoning why they don't think it should be Tsukasa. The fact that they need someone who's much more of an expert when it comes to combat, because Tsukasa is he may be a martial artist, but when it comes to warrior on warrior combat, I don't think he is actually the best in that field. As we see, Kohaku's amazing jumping skills, how she just like crawls up the side of the hill and then just jumps up it. And we get a flashback to her using the tires to bounce across the Andes in South America. And this actually gets Tsukasa thinking like, oh, maybe Kohaku could be the one, because Kohaku is more I would say more athletically inclined than Tsukasa. Like, she could do more of the jumping through areas, jumping through trees and everything. Basically, the jumping necessity that will be needed for the moon mission. Now, before we continue on, this actually caused a lot of controversy. Well, I want to say controversy. It basically divided the audience of like, does this ruin Tsukasa's character or doesn't it? Now, personally, I don't think it is. I don't think it does, because plans change all the time in Dr. Stone. Everything changes all the time in Dr. Stone. Like, you cannot be like, oh yeah, this is absolutely definitely going to happen, because it's always changing. That's something I think everyone has forgotten when it comes to this. When it comes to this series, like, everything changes all the time. Like when they first thought like, oh, they would just have to go to South America to solve all the mysteries, and they thought they were going to go to South America first, but no, they had to stop on Treasure Island, and then they realized like, oh no, we have to go to the moon to confront the Y-Man, to figure out all the mysteries of what the petrification is. When they were saying like, oh, we can't build a computer in the Stone World, like, no, we're going to build a computer now. They're kind of forgetting about that, and this is no exception. They're kind of forgetting that, no, plans change, and this is all going to change now. And Tsukasa, his whole thing throughout the series is just being gradually coming to accept science as a necessary for the world, despite the fact that others may use it in corruption. Ultimately, it is the one thing moving forward and moving the world in the right direction, because up until that point, like when he first started, the only reason that he was doing all of what he was doing is because he didn't want the world to be tainted by corruption, and he obviously thought that science would be the thing to actually corrupt people because of the use of guns and weapons, and that saying like, oh, I've got a gun here, so this is my property, so get out. So that was the thing he was saying. That was the thing that was going on about, and also it was the fact that he had no way of curing his sister, but Senku actually found a way through science, and that's kind of like opened Tsukasa's eyes in the end, and got him on Senku's side. But at Senku's side, basically, and he's kind of slowly being like, okay, yeah, science is the way forward. I mean, I still don't want corruption in the world, but at the same time, I'm not going to be against science anymore, because it saved my sister's life, and this is kind of like bringing it full full circle and bringing quite an interesting end to his arc. Now, the way they go about it as well could have been handled differently, as we'll soon see. We cut over tonight where we have Tsukasa asking Kurako to see her before we see Tsukasa busting out his Buster sword. That's only a single sword now. It's not the Buster. It's not the double bladed sword now. So wait, did he just knock off that double Buster blade sword in South America? And we see Kurako defending herself with her knives. Like, so I guess she's just abandoned the katana blade. Yeah, to go back to the knives. Well, to be fair, she had used the knives most of her life, so I guess it does make sense that she went back to them. But we see her thinking that what is going on, Tsukasa? Why are you attacking me? Explain yourself. After coming this far, I refuse to believe that you were backstabbers now. And this is where Tsukasa actually felt that, yeah, he wasn't actually trying to fight her. He was just testing her. And he says, forgive me for that. This brings back memories of the day we first met when we crossed blades, much like this. As we cut to a flashback to the day they actually did meet, when Tsukasa had revived and actually blocked Karaku's knife with his fingers. And again, really good flashback, and it's kind of bringing everything back together. And I think it's kind of like saying, like, Inagaki saying, like, okay, yeah, we're in the final stretch of the series now, so we've got to kind of like wrap up character arcs here. And this is kind of like a nice wrap up for Tsukasa's character arc by basically being there with Kurako and basically acknowledging her as a warrior. Now, the way it could have been handled a little bit differently is if we had more interaction with Kurako and Tsukasa throughout the series, because ever since he was revived, we haven't really had much more interaction with it, except in the battle in South America. Like, we haven't had Tsukasa and Kohaku actually have a conversation with each other, just finding out more about each other. Like, now, if Hyoga was here and she was attacking both Tsukasa and Hyoga, that would make more sense, because like she's had more interactions with Hyoga, and I think Pai-Chance was the one who actually brought up that long list of, like, okay, this is the interactions with Kohaku and Kohaku and Hyoga, and like why they have such an important rivalry with each other. But yeah, this could have been handled better if Hyoga was actually here during this conversation. But he says, but Tsukasa goes on to say, after countless life or death battles, you are now just as capable of a warrior as Hyoga or myself. So basically acknowledging that Kohaku is on the same tier as Hyoga and Tsukasa. So kind of nice that Tsukasa is actually acknowledging her here. And even though she's flattered by this, she even acknowledges Tsukasa, like, okay, yeah, I'm flattered by that, Tsukasa. I'm glad you think of me as that. But when it comes to martial arts, she can't measure up to you in the least. Which begs the question, like, if Tsukasa had actually trained Kohaku in the field of martial arts, would she be stronger than Tsukasa at this point? And the answer to that would probably be yes. And this makes it a little bit disappointing of the fact that we didn't really get anything of that. Like, there could have been a moment where Tsukasa on the boat going over to America would be like, hey, Kohaku, do you want to learn some martial arts? And that could have been immensely invaluable in certain situations, like in the battle with Stanley. That could have been so much more valuable. Tsukasa goes on to say that the gap between us is not the yearning chasm you imagined, especially given the weapons now provided by the Kingdom of Science. Yes, science is the great equalizer, which was Pai-Chance did bring up that this is what Yuzuriha told him back when they first revived. So yeah, kind of coming full circle for his character and kind of being like, okay, yeah, science is the way forward, and I am going to be the one that's actually going to be protecting science from corruption from now on. Even though you're in Japan, Tsukasa, like, you could be around the world doing all of this, but yeah, this basically says, like, Tsukasa is not going to be the one to go to the warrior to go to the moon, but it's going to be Kohaku, which I'm not disappointed with, because Tsukasa needs to spend time with his sister. Like, how many years have it been since they've actually had a conversation with each other? Like 10, 11, 12 years, like, since Mirai was first revived, and we've not had a conversation with them since. So yeah, they need to just sit down, have a conversation, and be together as a family. Tsukasa goes on to say, so it is in my opinion that a nimble and dual warrior is the most suited to moon combat. Plus, this will reduce the rocket's total weight by dozens kilograms. As the combat expert of this team, this is my appraisal. So yeah, making sense of the fact why it should be Kaku, because she's lighter than them, so she's lightweight than Tsukasa. As we cut to see you pointing something on a billboard, which I can't make out what is actually said underneath here. Is it like just meant to be? Is it just meant to be the astronauts that were on the International Space Station when they first arrived? Or, like, I just can't. Like, what is that? What are those names? Can somebody figure that out for me? But yeah, quickly before we move on to the end of the chapter, yeah. So yeah, I don't think this ruins Tsukasa's character. It just brings him full circle and makes his character arc complete. The one man that was against science in the beginning because he felt like it was the most corrupted thing in the world is now on the side of science and thinking like, no, science is the great equalizer when it comes to the battle between good and evil. Yes, there are going to be people that are going to use it for evil, but ultimately at the end of the day, it is the best thing for humanity. Anyway, continuing on, they say the three astronauts who will be confronting Y-Man are Ryusui, Senku, and Kaku, as we see them in spacesuits, which looks like it's imaginary at this point, although that remains to be seen if we're in the next chapter they are actually building spacesuits, or if they're just there in spacesuits. And Senku's like, oh, this is so heavy, and it's like, oh my god, Senku, we're gonna have to train you even more now. Now the thing that people are bringing up here is the fact that Kaku has a gun. So yeah, in terms of like gun combat, Kaku has none of that. So yeah, maybe insulting Yo at the beginning of the chapter wasn't the brightest move, Kaku, considering he's the gun expert. So yeah, despite it, yeah, maybe he'll teach you how to use a gun, or teach you how to use it inappropriately, knowing Yo. But yeah, what do I think of this space team now? Yeah, I would much like it to be other people that are going as well. Maybe we will get that, maybe not. That remains to be seen. But yeah, in terms of it being this space team, I get it because Ryusui, Senku, and Kaku in that last scene they all looked very similar to Shamil, Byakuya, and Lillian. Like, so I think it's kind of like meant to be a reflection of like, okay, the Soyuz crew is now going back into space. It's going back to the internet to confront the thing that actually caused the petrification in the first place. Now, and it makes sense because, and it makes even more sense for it to be Kahaku being the one, because she's a direct descendant from the International Space Station team that started all of this. Like, started the Kingdom of Science, like, not started the Ishigami Fridge, basically started all of this, like, set the plot in motion, set the whole cast in motion. So it makes sense that it's Kahaku being one, because she's the descendant of both Lillian and Byakuya, and standing right there next to Byakuya's adopted son makes the most poignant sense. And of course, Ryusui being greedy, but also kind of looking a little similar to Shamil, so maybe he's directly related to Shamil, maybe a branch of the Nanami family, or like a distant relative. Like, he looks like a little bit of Shamil in that panel, so maybe that's what they're kind of going for here. Like, yes, Ryusui is supposed to be connected to Shamil in some way, or maybe I'm just going off on a limb here and just making up some like crazy theory that's not going to come true. But if that's true, if Ryusui is related to Shamil, then that could have been more appropriate. But yeah, Space Team, looking forward to find out what's next, because they're going to have to do the ultimate space training now. Like, we've got the astronauts selected, so now it's onto the space training itself. We've had the space trial, now we've got to do the space training. So yeah, anyway guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz, and this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later guys.